Hey guys, I went through my vault and I picked out 3 of my favorite pot of gold rock painting ideas and I've put them together in a compilation for you here. Go ahead and use the timestamps along the bottom of the video if you want to skip ahead to any given design. Happy painting!
It's your lucky day. Today we're going to take this rock and these rainbow colors and make a fun St. Patrick's Day themed rock. I'm going to use this foam brush for kind of a one swipe rainbow design. So I am adding a little bit of each of the colors of paint onto the end of the foam brush. And I've done this before in a couple geode designs. It's kind of fun. If you don't have the foam brush, you can do this onto a regular wide paintbrush, or you could just paint the colors on one by one. So I'm just going to kind of hold it vertically because there's a lot of paint on there and just swoosh across and make this rainbow. And you can go back and forth trying to keep those colors aligned so it doesn't blend too much. You want to still keep all of the colors visible. Now these colors didn't quite hold as much vibrancy as I wanted, so I came back with a paintbrush and just kind of brightened them up. Still kind of blended them into each other. They don't have hard lines, but just added a little bit more color to make it nice and bright. Now I'm going to take my soapstone pencil and outline a cloud on the right side of the rainbow and then a little pot for our pot of gold on the other side of the rainbow. And this is just to give myself kind of a guide. And then I'm going to come back through and fill both of these shapes with Liquitex gesso. And the reason for this is partly to prime, and then also because we're going over 2 different surfaces. I'm partially covering part of the rainbow, and then I'm also onto just the natural stone as well. So this will help make sure that we have even coverage underneath the next round of paint. I'm going to outline my pot of gold with a Posca PC1MR pen, and then I will come back in and fill it in with black paint. I'm going to add some white paint on top of the gesso on that cloud to make it nice and bright. You can really see how it brightens up when you get the white paint on there. And then I'm also going to add some Dragonfly Glaze full spectrum onto the rainbow just for a touch of sparkle. And a little gold buckle for our pot of gold. This is a Signo gel pen that you saw me use a couple weeks ago in a video. Very handy for a small accent like this. Now I'm going to take some Folk Art Extreme Hologram glitter paint and just give an outline to the cloud. I'm not going to fill in the whole thing, but just give a little definition around the edge of the cloud for a little extra sparkle. And this glitter is a little thicker than the Dragonfly Glaze, so it'll have a different kind of sparkle because it's got a little bit bigger chunks of glitter in it. And now a little bit of gesso for the gold that's going to come out of our pot of gold. Since it's coming up over those rainbow colors, I want to make sure that there's going to be good coverage and that we don't have rainbows popping through. Now I'm going to do 2 coats of just regular gold craft paint. This is Folk Art gold paint. It's a little bit thin. I've had it for a long time, so the first coat didn't give it quite the coverage that I wanted, so I gave it a second coat. Next, I'm giving it a layer of Folk Art gold glitter paint. So nice, as smooth as you can get it with glitter paint, a smooth layer of the gold glitter paint to add a little level of sparkle. We're gonna add more layers, don't worry. You wanna make sure and let that fully dry, and then I'm gonna take a disposable eyeliner brush, really fine and thin, and some black paint, and just make a bunch of little circles. So these are kind of like the little nuggets of gold. And I'm still gonna cover this up with more glitter paint, but these are gonna be kind of covered up and kind of peeking through. So it gives kind of this unique dimension and kind of that look that there are little nuggets of gold sitting in this pot of gold instead of just a big chunk of gold. This is the DecoArt Holograph Illusions glitter paint. It's very chunky, different sizes of glitter in it. It's really fun to use for stuff like this. So I'm just gonna take a dotting tool and lay it on nice and thick. You won't be able to see anything while it's wet, but when it dries, it's gonna have a peekaboo effect with our little gold nuggets, and it's just gonna have all of this golden dimension because there's different chunks. We have the glitter layer underneath, and you do have to let this dry for a significant amount of time. Make sure it's completely dry, but you can see how well it creates the illusion of a pot of gold. Super fun, super easy. I'm going to start out by using my white chalk pencil to outline the entire design. So I'm starting with the pot of gold, just getting the general shapes. Remember, you're going to cover all of this up, so it doesn't matter if you have, overlapping lines and whatnot. So I'm going to draw kind of a heaping dome of where the gold is going to go, and then I'm going to draw two legs poking out of it as if there's a leprechaun diving into the pot of gold. Take some Liquitex gesso and I'm going to fill in the socks on the leprechaun because these are going to be striped green and white, and so I want to make sure there's good coverage over this stone because it's kind of dark. And then I'm not going to worry about anything else just now because there's going to be a lot more black on this design, and black can usually go on all by itself. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the pot and the leprechaun's shoes in with black. I'm using a sort of fine line paintbrush to get the outlines in and then filling it in with a larger brush. Take some white paint and fill in those socks a little further, and you'll see that I'm kind of making the line go with the dome of where the gold will be, but I'm filling in white first and then I'll come back and do green stripes on top of that because that's just easier to me. It's kind of like extra base coat in my mind. And at this point I'm also going to take some Liquitex gesso and fill in the dome where the gold paint is going to go, mostly because these socks kind of overran into the gold with some of the gesso, and so I want to even that out. And then gold paint, any kind of metallic paint, often needs several coats, so we're going to make one of them a base coat. It'll just make it a little bit easier in the long run. I'm going to use this nice bright and cheerful spring green to create the stripes on the leprechaun's socks. I'm doing one thick one, and I was going to leave it at that, and then it looked kind of funny to me, so I filled these in and then came back and added kind of the starts of stripes above the shoe and by the gold. course, our little pot of gold is going to need some extra coats of gold paint to make sure that we have full coverage. And then I'm going to take a fine line brush and add some tongues to the leprechaun's shoes, and then also some gold buckles. Now I'm going to take my Sakura Pigma fine line brush pen and I'm going to outline all of the details on the leprechaun's legs. I did go ahead and outline even the things that were in black because this pen tends to have a little bit of a shinier look to it. So even though there's black designs, you can still kind of see the lines. So it just adds a little extra definition to it. It's very small and not super noticeable, but it's just an extra detail. And I'm also going to add some nuggets to the pot of gold. I'm not doing this super carefully because we're going to cover this with some chunky gold glitter paint, and I just kind of want those lines back there to show through to give kind of definition to the nuggets. And for the pot of gold, I'm going to use this holographic illusion paint. This is the chunkier glitter paint, so it's not super fine. It's got varied pieces. It's thick, so I definitely put it on thick with a dotting tool, and you are going to love how this turns out when it dries. It took a while to dry, but the chunky glitter just took this to the next level. One last little accent is to take some white paint and draw a line on the curve of the pot to give the illusion of shine. And then check out how this rock turned out. That gold glitter was perfect for a pot of gold. It gave it exactly the look that I wanted. So today we're going to work on a super easy rainbow sparkly pot of gold. So I'm starting out here with my white chalk pencil and I'm lining out the pot of gold, so the pot, and then I'm going to kind of create these lines that are going to be like a rainbow burst coming out of the pot of gold. Now I'm going to take some Liquitex gesso and just kind of give a base coat to the entire design because these Mexican beach pebbles are very smooth, very slick, and it's hard to get really good coverage on them. So I want to just give it this little bit of a base coat so that the colors will pop and even the black will just go on nice and easy. It has some grip to it so that the paint won't be sliding all around on the Mexican beach pebble. You know I've been on a kick with my Craftsmart multi-surface premium satin paint, so we're going to use those for the rainbow. Now that I've got the gesso on there, I'm going to take a pink chalk pencil and just kind of recreate the lines for the rainbow piece, and then we're going to jump right in and start adding the color to the rainbow. So I'm starting with the pink, and then I realized that I didn't quite go far enough with my gesso, so I'm going to come back and add a little bit to the side there to fill in that piece of the rainbow, and we'll come back and keep adding the pink. So I'm just going to follow the colors of the rainbow, except that I substituted pink for red. So we're going to go pink, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And I'm going to take a couple extra coats of this because I didn't do the gesso quite as thick as I could have. I'm thinking if I'd have gone back, I'd have maybe put the gesso on more solidly, and that would have helped with these colors. But it's totally okay. These have good coverage. They're also multi-surface, so they have a little bit of a sheen to them when you get them on there. So I'm just going to get all the colors of the rainbow on there. It's going to look like a burst coming out of the pot of gold. So I'm working backwards. I'm going to do the rainbow first and get all of the colors on there with multiple coats to make sure we've got nice bright colors. And then we're going to work backwards and work on the gold. So because the gold's going to overlap with the bottom part of our rainbow, I'm going to come back with the Liquitex gesso and just create my little pot of gold there and cover it up a little bit so that the gold paint doesn't have to work as hard. My gold paint is a little old, so it's a little thin, and so it just needs a little help. Just needs a little help to make sure that it's got good coverage. And this took 2 or 3 coats to get a nice solid gold color on the paint. And then we're going to continue working our way down the pot of gold and take some black paint and fill in that pot, I guess. It's like a kettle pot, I guess. Makes me think of cast iron, the way that pots of gold are portrayed. So I think of cast iron because my husband loves to cook in cast iron, so that really dark black, heavy metal is what it reminds me of. Now we're going to come back up to the top of the rock and work our way down again. So I'm going to take some of this extreme hologram glitter paint and we're going to cover all of the rainbow starburst with the hologram glitter paint. And I'm not stressing too much if I'm overlapping onto the gold because I'm going to use a different chunkier glitter on the gold. So I'm just kind of letting it flow, making sure that the rainbow pieces are covered first. Then we're going to take this chunkier holographic illusions glitter paint that's gold and this silicone tool and pat this gold glitter paint into our pot of gold. So this tool works really well because it's got kind of a flat edge on it. The dotting tools work also, but sometimes it gets gooped up or you just can't get as much down at one time. And I like to put this particular glitter on really thick, just because it's got so much dimension with the large chunks of glitter and the small glitter in it as well. So I'm just using this tool to make sure I go all the way around to the edges. And then once I get all of that on, I'm going to come back around and hold that tool up vertically along the top of our pot of gold and just make it kind of uneven because it doesn't want to be perfect. There are little lumps of gold in there. Now I'm going to take a black paint pen and give a little bit of definition to the lip and the outer part of the pot of gold. And then I'm going to take a fine eyeliner brush and some white paint and just add that reflection onto the pot of gold. And there you have it. It's going to be somebody's lucky day when they find this little pot of gold out there in the world.